we've heard a wide array of perspectives here on the enormous potential for increasing food supplies, both through the super producer, net exporting countries, and also through closing the yield gap in regions that are lagging behind. Using tools such as technology and improved research, better finance, more investment. We've also heard about the enormous challenge of climate change and other challenges which will be impeding our way as we try to meet this global challenge. In a few minutes, I'm going to turn to all of you to invite your perspectives in very brief 1-minute interventions. So please prepare your thoughts. We'd love to hear from those of you who are investors, from some of our friends from Africa, farmer leaders and others, what you think of these topics. But first I'll turn to the panel and ask them, from all the expertise that is represented here in this group, we've heard a lot of suggestions. A lot is known in terms of what needs to be done to sustainably meet the world's food needs. What do you feel are the greatest gaps, the biggest challenges that need the fastest progress? In particular, in the next few months, we'll be having meetings of global leaders around the world addressing climate, addressing the economy, other issues. Where would you like global leaders to really be focusing their attention to create a very fast acceleration of progress across all the issues that you've mentioned? Anyone, please feel free to take up that.
I had missed the point that it was for me, the question. Well, just to say 2 or 3 things. One, something that was mentioned by the representative of the economic community. Agriculture has to be seen as an economic sector, as a productive sector, and has to be provided the same incentives that many of the other sectors receive in most of the world. In most countries, agriculture is seen as a secondary thing, something that is there, but is not seen as a pillar for growth. And that, of course, distorts the policies. As Rob was saying, most of the policies, at least many countries, not necessarily all countries, but many countries have public policies and investment policies that are not focused in agriculture, being that agriculture is, as in most African countries, the main economic sector they have. And of course, investments, because agriculture is a bulky business, and thus you need good transportation systems and communication systems to be effective.
Great. So seeing agriculture as a driver of economic growth,
right,
and a driver of investment. Other thoughts on top priorities for accelerating progress among global leaders? Yes, Claudia.
I mean, just very quickly, for sure, I mean, looking into the near future, obviously, and this way also into the long future, we do need much more sustained investment in agricultural research in those fragile environments, fragile both being countries that have very fragile natural resources and very fragile natural agricultural research systems. So we need more sustained, we need a commitment by those leaders in those countries to not forget, you know, in times of crisis, to not forget that agriculture still sustains a large share of the national populations, and to keep investing there, and also by the global community to remind some of those leaders that this is an area that if they neglect it, and if they neglect it for 5 years and they remember it again, that this is just not the way that they will get sustained agriculture growth and poverty alleviation. I think that reminder has to go out there very quickly. Yeah.
Great point. Other thoughts from the panel?
I fully agree that there are some things that can restrict agricultural production, whatever the way, especially in our case, we want a sustainable way. For example, infrastructure deficiencies, capital deficiencies. But you know, I agree with Martin, with good policies, we can at least make it better. One point that I think that is really complicated is human capital, because it takes time to be removed, you know. It's not like physical capital that with good policies you can eventually remove it in a few years, even in a decade. So human capital is also very complicated when we think in the longer term, because it takes time to be removed.
That's a great point, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because it links into the issue of how to attract youth into the agriculture sector, given that many farmers are becoming older. And any other comments on top recommendations, Jikun?
Yeah. I want to share our experience in China. In past more than 10 years, number one policy document in whole economy, whole political, social issues is agriculture and rural development. So that's why I mentioned political commitment is first and the most important condition and also precondition for sustainable agricultural development. Without commitment, and when you're making financial allocation, you are not coming first. But when you become number one, political document needs commitment. And then budget allocation will go to agricultural rural development first, then consider rest other economies.